What up? It's your boy, the Incredible Man, and yes, I'm back at it again. And I just finished Vinland Saga episode 19, and this is my discussion slash review. And mark your calendars as the day that Vinland Saga set a staple, and it now, I don't care what anybody says, it is definitely going down in history as one of those all-time classic anime that you just cannot avoid. And it's right up there to me, you know, with stuff like Rurouni Kenshin, Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, I'm trying to think of so many other anime. Anyway, it's right up there with those, Yu Yu Hakusho and all those. It is right there with those. It is right there on the precipice of something super great and fantastic, and that's what this episode was. It was so good. It was so good. Okay, this episode, I was thoroughly surprised by everything that happened because this was a shocker to me. Okay, this episode started and we see the aftermath of Thorkel kicking Thorfinn like 2 miles away. So we see him and he's kind of dazed and he doesn't know what's going on. And Thorkel is just walking up to him, hey, you ready to continue the duel? And he's like, duel? What? And he's out of it. Then his mind kind of jumps back and he snaps up and he's like he's ready for the fight to continue. And then we see this dude, okay. This man jumped up and he didn't even know his arm was broken. And it was broken. It wasn't even broken like a little bit either. It was his arm was messed up. And the adrenaline pumping through his body and him just wanting to kill Thorkel had him so amped up. This man arm, look man, this man arm done this. And he didn't even feel it until he kind of just looked at his arm was like this until he looked down at it. And that's when he realized that it was broken and all the pain just kicked in. But then forget that, because I thought that was the most exciting thing we were going to find out. But that was nothing compared to what we got in this episode. So then we see there, and Thorkel was like, you know what? Because Askeladd came over to help him and wrap up their wound, wrap up his arm. And he was like, get off of me. But I love seeing him and Askeladd have that kind of relationship. I told you guys countless times on my channel anyway, that I love their relationship. And it's not like a father-son relationship, but it's just like a good companion relationship because they've been together so long, and Thorfinn has followed them ever since he was since he was a kid, and Askeladd feels like he just kind of have to watch out for him sometimes. And they show that not all the time, but like when they do it in these moments, it is so wonderful and great to see it happen. So that happens, and they're doing that, and Thorkel was like, well, while you guys are doing that, I'll tell you the story about your father and what you wanted to know. So he goes in to tell him, and dude, it was so much more than what I expected. He is related to Thorfinn. He's his great uncle. What? He's Thorfinn's mother, aka Helga's real uncle. Well, he's his real uncle too, but like he's her uncle, and he's Thorfinn's great uncle because his brother is her father, and her father was the young Vikings commander and leader, and she was pretty much royalty. It's so great. I'm gonna call it hands down right now, perfect. The story for this is perfection, and the writing is so point down to the minuscule detail. You would have never expected this. Manga readers, yeah, sure, but us anime only watchers would have never expected this to happen. This is crazy. So then we see Thorfinn and Thorkel and Thor's when they were younger and they were fighting, and we find out that like they were friends, and because Thor's was so strong, they called him the Troll, and his brother gave him one of his daughters. He had multiple, so he gave him one of his daughters, and he was leading Thor's to take command of the Yums Vikings. And then Thor's faked his death to go live happily ever after. But he had to go back to get Helga. And after they had his funeral and they mourned him and everything, he bumps into Thorkel as they were leaving out of the Yums Vikings place. And they get into a fight. And he was like, well, what are you doing? Why are you leaving? And Thor's had that serious look on his face. And he was like, why are you leaving? And they get into a fight. And this man had an axe that he's always swinging around. And he was like, he asked Thor, where's your sword? He was like, I don't need it. And this man, he okay. First of all, he blocked it earlier in their meeting, and then this time he dodged it. He broke the axe at the handle. This man, we knew Thor's was absolutely fantastic, but to see him in this capacity, and this was when he was younger, just to see him in this capacity, it was still such a wonderful time, and I just enjoyed there was no dull moments in this. There was nothing. Every moment that we saw was absolutely fantastic. So then we dive back and we're back into reality. Well, not the reality, but in the present, and everything's going down. Thorkel and Thorfinn started their fight again. I'm sorry, there's so much going on. I'm super excited. Oh, they started their fight again. They started to pick it up. But in that meantime, we had Askeladd telling him there is a way to beat him. This is a battle, and it's not shogi. So this time, Askeladd and Thorfinn are working together to take down Thorkel. And the funny thing is, because then we see a flashback of Askeladd and Thorkel on the same battlefield, and they're going at it, and that's when Thorkel got injured, and Askeladd saw that. Askeladd is a man of opportunity, man. This dude that's why I love this character, man. I love this dude, man. I love him. So then we see this, and he explains how to beat him. So we have Thorfinn playing feint and leading Thorkel into a trap, and then he does it, and Askeladd blinds him with the sword. And when he does that, and when they showed it in the flashback, it kind of looked like something happened on this side of his face. So when we see it, I was like, well, it had to be his eye, right? So then he blinded him, and Thorfinn came up like the Matrix and kicked this dude right on the side of the face like that, man. And when he done it, dude felt like a ton of bricks. He just passed out. And when he passed out, it rocked him, because you could see his hand kind of twitching a little bit. And then he gets up and he shook. And all of his own men are on looking and everything, like, oh wow, wait, this can't be right. And when that happens, we see Thorfinn get up right behind him, wrap around his head, and starts digging in his eye, starts pulling it. You can see all the blood and everything, and all of the other men. And he finally kind of threw him off of him. And Askeladd was like, "You need a weapon. Don't do it with your hands." And he threw him off of him, and all of the other men just bomb rushed Thorfinn, like, kill that kid. And when it happened, Askeladd was trying to make a move, but he's so hurt he can't really do much. And then Thorkel realizes what's going on, and he tells them to stop and let him loose. Don't ruin my duel. But at that same time, we get Canute. Canute bops in and tells everybody to stop this violence and stop this fighting because it is pointless. And then he starts to explain stuff to Thorkel and tells him that he wants a sled and he wants him to follow him and everything. And we get everything that, like what was mentioned on last week's episode. We get it like a face-to-face with Thorkel. And dude, Canute is 100% beast mode, man. Dude, you know it's good writing, and the story's progressing so well and everything, when a character like Thorkel, that's, he's pretty battle bound and action bound and everything, and all he wants to do is fight. And he notices a significant difference in Canute when he comes onto the battlefield and tells them to stop the fighting, and that's it. He was like, he's changed. What happened to him in that short time for him to be like this? That is fantastic. That is nothing but epicness. So then we have this whole thing with them having a discussion, and then we also have that one dude that was riding up with Canute, and the guy that, his brother led the whole betrayal against Askeladd. And we find out that his brother's not dead. I thought he was dead. I thought he died from shock. But his brain just pretty much fried from shock because he doesn't even know who his brother is. So that's just a little side note. So then we get back and we have Thorkel and Canute having a full drawn out discussion. And we have Thorkel saying, well, okay. Because at that point, Canute was like, well, you're going to use me against my father as a hostage, right? And he was like, well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. But he was like, well, that's not going to work because my father doesn't care if I live or die. And he pretty much wanted me to die on this battlefield by your hands anyway. So at this point, dude, we're getting the realization that Canute, even though he was acting like real, like off out there and a little gone, he still paid attention to his surroundings. And now that he's stepped up to be the man, he's taken everything that he's absorbed and just sat there, and no one seemed to like he really could pay attention. He just took all of that now, and now his focus is laser pointed at his father. And he was like, well, it's not going to do any good because my father wants my brother to be king, and he wanted me to die. And Thorkel was like thinking about it and everything, and then Canute gave him an alternative: work with me to take my father and get him out of, to not let him be king anymore. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing because we know his father is like garbage. But at the same time, Thorkel was like, well, I don't buy it, because he knows he changed, but he was like, I still don't buy it because a lot of people can spout this nonsense and not mean it, and the moment they get hit, they change their whole perspective again. So this dude, he revved up like he was finna knock Canute 10 miles away. But just before he connected, he stopped. And when he stopped, Canute's face had that same look that Thor's had in his eyes, and Thorkel doesn't have that same experience that anybody else has, like Thor's and Canute. But he wants it, but he doesn't have it. And he was like, I hate that look in your eyes. I can't stand it. Excuse me. But then he also mentions in this whole episode, after their whole little interaction, and he mentions to his men that we're going to follow Canute. But at the same time, he mentions, I wish I would have followed Thor's back then. When he left, I wish I would have went with him, and maybe I could have understood what it meant to be, what it means to be a real warrior. Dude, all of that happened, and all of that was just pure greatness and wonderful writing and everything. And the voice actors this episode done a fantastic job. But all of that was nothing. That was icing on the cake to what happens next. Askeladd starts laughing and he blah, 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 blah. But then he comes and kneels down before Canute and tells him, I'm the one that killed Ragnar. Dude, what? This is crazy. I did not expect this to go this way, man. Dude, everything changed at this moment. And that's what I'm saying. You can mark your calendars because today, Vinland Saga has reached legend status, man. All of the other episodes were wonderful and fantastic, and you knew that this was going to be one of those anime. This is epic. This is definitely going to go down in history. But today, for me, this episode marked that, man, and it made it. It's already up there to me. For me, it doesn't even have to do anymore. If it ended right now, I'd be mad because, I don't understand. Like, they just stopped in the middle of a story. But that legend status is there already for me, man. It's done. And then Canute, you can tell he's angry, but he just lets it go. And he was like, well, you're going to take his place. And working for me and helping me is going to be your penance for killing Ragnar. And Askeladd was like, okay. And then Thorkel was like, well, don't copy me. And then that's when it was starting to end. And Thorfinn was looking like, what is going on? And then that's how it ends, it with them walking off all together. And dude, it's so fantastic. And Thorkel mentions that, well, sorry about killing all your men, but now we're working together. He was like, well, it could just be water under the bridge. And Askeladd was like, well, there's nothing but for it to be water under the bridge. And that's how it ended. And legend status already at 19 episodes for me, man. Excuse me, I'm sorry, you guys. This is your boy, Nick Incredible. Don't forget to smash that like button until you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. And subscribe, but only if you really want to, man. And remember that anime matters, anime is greatness, and anime is life, man. Peace out.